Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun! The faded photograph trembled in Fabian's hands as he stared at the image, a mix of emotions swirling within. There he was, no more than 8 years old, twirling in his sister's pink tulle dress, a wide grin plastered across his face. The memory rushed back, vivid and intense. The soft fabric against his skin, the way the skirt flared out as he spun, the feeling of unbridled joy. He'd stumbled upon the photo while cleaning out his childhood bedroom, tucked away in a dusty shoebox beneath stacks of baseball cards and comic books. For years, he'd buried this part of himself, pushing it down so deep he'd almost forgotten it existed. But now, holding the evidence in his trembling fingers, he couldn't deny the truth any longer. Taking a deep breath, Fabian reached for his phone. Before he could second-guess himself, he snapped a picture of the old photograph and sent it to Marley, his girlfriend of 3 years. They'd always prided themselves on their open, honest relationship, but this was something he'd never shared with anyone. The wait for her response felt interminable. Fabian paced his room, stomach churning with anxiety. What if she was disgusted? What if this changed everything between them? His phone buzzed, and he nearly dropped it in his haste to read her message. "Oh my God, Fab! You were adorable! I love how happy you look!" Fabian blinked, relief washing over him. He typed back, fingers shaking slightly. "You're not weirded out?" Marley's response came quickly. "Of course not. Kids play dress-up all the time. It's cute." He hesitated, then decided to push a little further. What if it wasn't just when I was a kid? There was a longer pause this time, and Fabian held his breath. Finally, his phone lit up again. "Are you trying to tell me something, Fab? Because if you are, I'm here to listen. No judgment, I promise." Tears pricked at the corners of Fabian's eyes. He'd never dared to hope for such acceptance. Taking a deep breath, he typed out the words he'd been holding back for so long. "I think I've always felt more comfortable expressing myself in a feminine way. I've just been too scared to admit it." "Oh, honey, I'm so glad you told me. Do you want to talk about it more? I'm here for you, whatever you need." That night, they talked for hours. Fabian poured out years of pent-up feelings. The secret stash of makeup he kept hidden in his desk drawer, the women's clothing websites he browsed in incognito mode, the constant feeling that something about him just didn't quite fit. Marley listened, asked questions, and, most importantly, accepted. As the sun began to rise, painting the sky in soft pinks and purples, she made a suggestion that would change everything. "Why don't we go shopping tomorrow? We could pick out some clothes for you to try on. Only if you want to, of course." Fabian's heart raced at the idea. "You'd do that for me?" "Of course I would. I love you, Fab. All of you." The next day found them at a small boutique on the outskirts of town. Marley had done her research, finding a shop known for its inclusive atmosphere. As they stepped inside, Fabian felt a mix of terror and exhilaration. "Can I help you find anything?" The saleswoman approached with a warm smile. Fabian froze, but Marley squeezed his hand reassuringly. "We're looking for some dresses and skirts for my partner here. Something comfortable to start with, maybe?" The saleswoman's smile never wavered. "Of course. Let's see what we can find." Over the next few hours, Fabian tried on more clothes than he had in years. Soft cotton dresses, flowing skirts, silky blouses. Each item felt like a revelation. when he stepped out of the dressing room in a simple black wrap dress. He caught sight of himself in the mirror and gasped. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was seeing his true self reflected back at him. Marley's eyes welled up with tears. "You look beautiful, Fab. How do you feel?" "I feel right," Fabian whispered, running his hands over the soft fabric. "Like I'm finally me." They left the store with several bags of clothes and a newfound sense of possibility. Over the following weeks, Fabian began to explore his femininity more openly at home. Marley helped him with makeup, teaching him the intricacies of contouring and how to apply eyeliner without poking his eye out. One evening, as Fabian sat at their shared vanity, carefully applying a deep red lipstick, he caught Marley's eye in the mirror. "What do you think about names?" he asked, hesitantly. Marley tilted her head. "What kind of names?" "Well, I've been thinking, if I'm going to embrace this part of myself fully, maybe I should choose a new name. Something that feels more me." A soft smile spread across Marley's face. "I think that's a wonderful idea. Do you have any in mind?" Fabian nodded slowly. "I've always liked the name Faye. It feels soft, feminine, but still connected to who I've been." "Faye," Marley repeated, tasting the name on her tongue. "I love it. It suits you perfectly." From that moment on, Faye began to blossom. She started growing out her hair, experimenting with different styles. She practiced walking in heels, laughing as she stumbled around their apartment while Marley cheered her on. Each day brought new discoveries, new ways of expressing herself that felt authentic and true. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. The first time Faye ventured outside presenting as female, she was a bundle of nerves. They decided to start small, just a quick trip to the corner store for milk and bread. Faye wore a simple sundress and sandals, her newly shoulder-length hair pulled back in a ponytail. As they walked down the street, Faye felt every eye on her. Her cheeks burned, and she gripped Marley's hand like a lifeline. An older man passed them, doing a double take, and Faye's stomach dropped. "You're doing great," Marley whispered encouragingly. "Just breathe." They made it to the store without incident, but as they were checking out, the cashier squinted at Faye's credit card. "This doesn't look like you," he said gruffly. Faye's voice caught in her throat, panic rising. But Marley stepped in smoothly. "There's been a mistake with the photo on the card. We've already contacted the bank about getting it fixed." She lied effortlessly. The cashier grunted and finished the transaction. As they left the store, Faye let out a shaky breath. "Thank you," she murmured to Marley. "I don't know what I'd do without you." Marley squeezed her hand. "You'd be just fine. You're stronger than you know, Faye, but I'm here for you, every step of the way." As the months passed, Faye grew more confident in her identity. She started hormone therapy, watching with wonder as her body slowly began to change. Soft curves appeared where there had once been angles, and her facial features subtly shifted, becoming more delicate. She came out to her family, bracing for rejection but finding, to her surprise, mostly support. Her sister cried happy tears and immediately offered up her entire wardrobe. Her parents were confused at first, but promised to try to understand. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Work proved to be a bigger challenge. Faye had been at her job for years as Fabian, and the thought of coming out to her colleagues terrified her. But as her appearance changed, she knew she couldn't hide forever. She scheduled a meeting with her boss, Amanda, her heart pounding as she explained her situation. To her relief, Amanda was understanding and supportive. "We value you as an employee, Faye," she said warmly. "We'll do whatever we can to make this transition smooth for you at work." The day Faye came to work, presenting as female for the first time, was one of the most nerve-wracking of her life. She'd chosen a conservative pencil skirt and blouse, not wanting to draw too much attention. As she walked into the office, she could feel the stares, hear the whispers. But then, Tom from accounting approached her desk with a smile. "Hey, Faye, that color looks great on you. Want to grab coffee later?" Tears pricked at Faye's eyes as she nodded. It wasn't going to be easy, but moments like these gave her hope. As Faye settled into her true self, she and Marley's relationship evolved. They had to navigate new waters, redefining their dynamic as Faye explored her sexuality and identity. There were awkward moments and tough conversations, but their love for each other never wavered. 1 year after Faye had first shared that childhood photo, they decided to recreate it. Faye twirled in a pink tulle dress, much like the one she'd worn as a child, while Marley snapped pictures. As Faye spun, laughing with pure joy, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. Gone was the scared, confused person she'd been for so long. In her place stood a woman, confident, radiant, and finally, truly herself. Faye met her own gaze in the reflection and smiled, feeling for the first time in her life that she was exactly who she was meant to be. As she came to a stop, slightly dizzy from spinning, Marley lowered the camera and approached her, eyes shining with love and pride. "You are absolutely breathtaking," Marley said softly, reaching out to tuck a stray strand of hair behind Faye's ear. Faye leaned into the touch, her heart full to bursting. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything, for accepting me, for supporting me, for loving me through all of this." Marley shook her head, smiling. "Loving you has always been the easiest thing in the world, Faye. Whether you're wearing a suit or a dress, you're still the same amazing person I fell in love with. I'm just grateful I get to witness you becoming your true self." They shared a tender kiss, and as they parted, Faye felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey hadn't been easy, and she knew there would be more challenges ahead. But standing there, in a dress that represented both her past and her future, with the woman she loved by her side, Faye knew she could face anything. As the weeks turned into months, Faye continued to explore and refine her style. She discovered a love for vintage fashion, spending hours scouring thrift stores for unique pieces that spoke to her. Her wardrobe slowly transformed, filling with flowing midi skirts, delicate blouses with Peter Pan collars, and dresses that cinched at the waist, emphasizing her developing curves. One Saturday afternoon, Faye and Marley decided to tackle a full closet clean-out. As they sorted through Fabian's old clothes, deciding what to donate and what to keep, Faye found herself getting emotional. "You okay, love?" Marley asked, noticing Faye's watery eyes as she held up an old flannel shirt. Faye nodded, running her fingers over the soft, worn fabric. "Yeah, it's just strange, you know. These clothes represent so much of my life, but they never felt like me. It's like saying goodbye to a person I pretended to be for so long." Marley wrapped her arms around Faye from behind, resting her chin on her shoulder. "It's okay to feel conflicted. That person was a part of you, even if it wasn't your true self. Maybe we could keep a few pieces? As a reminder of how far you've come? Faye turned in Marley's arms, pressing a soft kiss to her lips. What did I do to deserve you? As they continued sorting, Faye set aside a few items. The flannel shirt, a worn leather jacket, a favorite t-shirt from a concert they'd attended together. These would stay, a bridge between her past and her present. With her wardrobe evolving, Faye's confidence grew. She started experimenting more with makeup, watching countless tutorials online and practicing for hours. She discovered a passion for bold, colorful eyeshadow looks that made her green eyes pop and fell in love with the way a swipe of red lipstick could make her feel powerful and feminine. One evening, as Faye was getting ready for a night out with Marley, she decided to try something new. She carefully applied a shimmering gold eyeshadow, blending it with a deep burgundy in the crease. A thin line of black eyeliner, a coat of mascara, and a dusty rose lipstick completed the look. When she emerged from the bathroom, Marley's jaw dropped. "Wow," she breathed, taking in Faye's appearance. "You look absolutely stunning." Faye blushed, smoothing down her emerald green wrap dress. "Really? It's not too much?" Marley shook her head emphatically. "Not at all. You're going to turn heads for all the right reasons tonight." As they walked into their favorite restaurant, Faye held her head high, feeling beautiful and confident. Throughout the evening, she caught several admiring glances from other patrons, and for the first time, those looks didn't fill her with anxiety. Instead, she felt a warm glow of pride. Over dessert, Marley reached across the table to take Faye's hand. "I have something I want to ask you," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. Faye's heart skipped a beat. "What is it?" Marley took a deep breath. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about our future. Watching you become your true self has been the most beautiful thing I've ever witnessed, and it's made me realize something." She paused, squeezing Faye's hand. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Faye, will you marry me?" Tears sprang to Faye's eyes, smudging her carefully applied makeup. But for once, she didn't care. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, of course I'll marry you!" As they embraced, the restaurant erupted in applause. Faye buried her face in Marley's neck, overwhelmed with emotion. Just 2 years ago, she never could have imagined this moment, being proposed to as her true self, in a beautiful dress, feeling completely and utterly loved. The engagement brought new challenges and joys. As they began planning their wedding, Faye found herself facing questions she'd never considered before. What kind of dress did she want to wear? Would she feel comfortable in a traditional wedding gown, or would she prefer something less conventional? She spent weeks poring over bridal magazines and websites, trying to envision herself walking down the aisle. Finally, she found it. A vintage-inspired tea-length dress with a sweetheart neckline and delicate lace sleeves. When she tried it on in the boutique, with Marley and her sister watching, teary-eyed, Faye knew it was perfect. As the wedding day approached, Faye's excitement was tinged with anxiety. She'd invited her extended family, many of whom she hadn't seen since her transition. The thought of facing them all, of being the center of attention as she married the love of her life, was both thrilling and terrifying. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. As Faye sat in front of the mirror, her hair and makeup artist working their magic, she felt a sense of calm settle over her. This was right. This was who she was meant to be. Her mother knocked softly on the door, entering with misty eyes. "Oh, Faye," she breathed, taking in her daughter's appearance. "You look absolutely beautiful." Faye stood, smoothing down her dress. "Thanks, Mom," she said softly. "I'm so glad you're here." Her mother crossed the room, enveloping Faye in a tight hug. "I wouldn't miss this for the world. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. Your father and I, we may not have understood everything at first, but seeing you now, so happy and so yourself, it's all we ever wanted for you." As Faye walked down the aisle, her father by her side, she felt as though her heart might burst with happiness. Marley waited for her at the altar, looking radiant in a sleek white pantsuit. Their eyes met, and the rest of the world fell away. The ceremony was a blur of happy tears and heartfelt vows. When the officiant pronounced them wife and wife, Faye pulled Marley in for a kiss, pouring all her love and gratitude into the gesture. At the reception, Faye danced with abandon, her skirt twirling around her legs. She hugged relatives who told her how happy she looked, graciously accepted compliments on her dress, and laughed with old friends who were getting to know the real her for the first time. As the night wound down, Faye and Marley snuck away for a quiet moment alone. They stood on a balcony overlooking the twinkling lights of the city, Marley's arms wrapped around Faye from behind. "How are you feeling, Mrs. Harrison?" Marley murmured, using Faye's new surname. Faye leaned back into her wife's embrace, a contented sigh escaping her lips. "Happier than I ever thought possible," she replied honestly. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is my life, that I get to be me, truly and completely, and that I have you by my side through it all." Marley pressed a soft kiss to Faye's neck. "I feel like the luckiest woman in the world. I love you, Faye Harrison, exactly as you are." As they stood there, looking out at the future stretching before them, Faye felt a profound sense of peace. The journey to become her true self had been long and often difficult, but standing here now, in a beautiful dress with her wife's arms around her, she knew that every step had been worth it. Faye turned in Marley's arms, meeting her gaze with eyes full of love and promise. "I love you too," she whispered. "Thank you for loving all of me, for supporting me through everything. I can't wait to see what our future holds." As they shared a tender kiss under the starry sky, Faye knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as her authentic self, with the love of her life by her side. The frightened person who had hidden behind Fabian for so long was gone, replaced by a woman who was strong, beautiful, and finally, unequivocally, herself.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!